Hello, Empowered Warriors. Welcome to episode 26. Today, I have a very special guest, Justina Gonzalez. Justina is this amazing mental fitness leader who helps entrepreneurs unlock the power of their mind and get their message out to the world, because when they are in alignment and flow, they can create ultimate freedom. Justina and I just had this really amazing conversation about what it looks like to be in alignment and how that shows up in our finances, how that shows up for us in our health, and what not being in alignment looks like as far as who comes through the door in terms of clients. And we talked about everything from alignment to flow to abundance. And Justina also shared with me some of her experiences in her journey with self-worth. So this is not a conversation that you want to miss. If you are an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, chances are you will get a lot of value out of this episode. And Justina is just a love to talk to. I really enjoyed spending time with her, and I think you will too. So, warriors, stay tuned. Welcome to the Empowered Warrior Podcast. My name is Angela Noel, and I am an intuitive coach, acupuncturist, and Chinese herbalist. This podcast is all about empowerment, meaning how you can maintain your personal power in order to have the best life beyond your imagination. An empowered warrior is someone who has the identity of a person who is healthy, radiant, and free from all suffering, and has the tools ready and available to move through life's obstacles with confidence, ease, and a sense of freedom. In this podcast, I bring over 16 years experience in Chinese medicine, countless years of self-development, and a passion for helping others find their personal power. I will be discussing just a few of my favorite topics regarding health from a Chinese medicine perspective, brain habits, and spirituality, so that you can quickly pave your pathway to freedom and be free from the chains that have kept you stuck. My intention with this podcast is to serve as a guide for warriors who want to form a healthy foundation of body, mind, and spirit, and sustain it by changing who they are being from the inside and having a stronger connection to their higher selves. My goal is to help students end the unnecessary suffering that they place on themselves by having poor health habits, negative thought loops, and a lack of self-worth. I am so happy that you're here. Hello, Empowered Warriors. Welcome. I am so excited today because I have another amazing special guest, my very good friend, probably the sweetest person you'll ever meet, the lovely Justina Gonzalez. Hi, Justina.
Hello, Angela. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
I am so happy to have you. Welcome. I know you have a very busy schedule, so thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Yes, I'm excited. We have very similar passions, and I think this is going to be amazing. So I'm looking forward to it.
I couldn't agree more. And talking about passion, I would love to hear more about you, and if you could tell the audience who you are and how you help people.
Sure. So my name is Justina Gonzalez. I am a mom of two young boys. I have a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old, and I'm engaged to one of the most amazing men in the world. He's such beautiful heart energy. I've been in the coaching industry for about 10 years now. I started off as a fitness professional, personal trainer. I had my own fitness business. I'm a leader in a network marketing company, and now I'm a business transformation coach. And I help other network marketers and online coaches make the mental and marketing shifts in their business so that they could step into sales like a freaking boss and grow a full-time income in their business using social media strategies. So that's what I love to do. I really started tapping into other entrepreneurs and network marketers because we all have this common desire to want to change and impact the world. And that's one of my deepest desires too. And I know that I can't do that alone. And helping my own clientele, I knew that I was making some impact, but I was like, if more coaches and more network marketers could get out of their own way, their own mental blocks, right? And then learn the strategy behind how to use social media to show up authentically. That's how we could create massive waves. Like that's where the impact starts. And yeah, so I just love what I get to do. I recently just stepped in to this business transformation and really helping online entrepreneurs be a boss at sales. But this is, yeah, it's all through, which I'm sure we'll talk about, like learning more about myself and surrendering and trusting and allowing and knowing what alignment is and how to lean into it. So it's been a journey.
Wow, Justina, thank you so much for just sharing that journey with me and with the audience. And we've known each other now since, I don't know, maybe close to a year now. And personally, I've seen you just shift tremendously. And I'm so glad that you mentioned the desire, right? Because that is something I think that is common with so many entrepreneurs, right? Is this desire to want to change their lives and impact others. But you mentioned also just the sales piece, right? So what specifically do you find in working with people? What is some of the blind spots that you're starting to notice, or have you noticed with entrepreneurs when it comes to sales? We'll start with that because I think that's a really important subject matter.
Yes. So what I realized, and this is all learned through a lot of sales within myself, is it comes down to the energy that you bring into the sale, and it's really leading from the heart and listening to people. And so many entrepreneurs get stuck in overthinking and perfectionism and working from a place of desperation. I need this to work. If I don't close this deal, then how am I going to, put food on my table? And we're living in this scarcity mind. So that's part of it. That's the energy, right? And I'm not naming either one. It's not good or bad. It's just the awareness of the energy. This other thing I'm noticing is we get in our own way. We make believe all of these stories that other people are going to judge us. And it comes back from probably our childhood, our limiting beliefs that we grew up hearing. And I firmly believe that being an entrepreneur requires the inner work, because typically the objections that you get in a sales call is a reflection of your limiting beliefs, is a reflection of some areas that are holding you back in life. And when entrepreneurs try to meet an objection, it's like a word battle. It's like battleship for words, right? It's not really about trying to convince somebody. It's being able to quiet your mind, to tap into your prospect and really start to get curious of, I wonder where this objection is coming from. And see if you could feel and tap into that. Because when you could feel and tap into where this objection could be coming from, it's not a matter of price or time or not knowing if it's going to work. There's an underlying belief. And that's the power of being able to help somebody shift their perspective. And maybe they don't even sign on with you. But if you could help them shift their perspective, to me, that's transformation, right? If you could help someone step out of their box of thinking, then I'm already being of service. And that's the energy I lead with in the call, is that I know no matter what, if they say yes and do a money exchange with me, I'm going to help this person. And I really let that shine through. So yeah, I think that's it.
You said so many great, you brought up so many good points, and I've just been writing notes as we go. So where can I start? So I love, first of all, what you said about we'll start with the entrepreneur, right? Kind of the story and the journey of the entrepreneur. And I feel like for so many entrepreneurs, there is this, and I think that's may or may not be why so few people actually venture into entrepreneurship, though I think that's shifting and changing, right? As it seems like with every year that goes by, there's more people who are identifying as being self-employed. But I do feel like there's this preconceived notion that in order to be self-employed, it's hard, or it takes a certain personality, or like only, certain types of people can succeed at making money. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that there's this, like you mentioned the word desperation, right? And I feel like for the warriors who are listening, that is a huge subconscious, it comes from the subconscious. And I want to talk about that too, where so many of us, and I've been there before, where it's like, oh my God, in order to make this business work, I have to have, like, I remember when I had my acupuncture business, I have to have like at least 30 patients a week, right? And we're in the same mentorship program. So we've really, really learned so much about sales and then the psychology and mindset behind sales. It's not a matter of making that sale and that, what we so often interpret as being like the sleazy salesperson slash, oh God, I got to do this thing. But it's a matter of service, right? And helping others. And I just love what you said about the subconscious beliefs that, are you finding that often they don't even know prospects?
Yeah.
They don't even know they're holding on to these things.
No idea, because it's been part of their entire life.
Yeah.
And it stemmed from something that they seen growing up as a child, most likely from their parents or whoever raised them. So to them, that's a way of life. And for me growing up, what I saw, I grew up in a household with an alcoholic, drug addict, abusive dad. He was in and out of prison my entire childhood. And so I seen a lot of fear. I lived in fear in my childhood. And I watched my mom as a single mom work and work and work and work to try to provide for us, right? And we lived on government assistance. I would hardly see my mom. She was working multiple jobs, going to school, and we were always running away from my dad. So we never really had a solid foundation. And I grew up believing that money was hard to make. If you wanted a decent life, you had to work so hard at it, work day and night, and not to mention all of the other stories I started making up in my head about relationships and men, because of the situations I was in. And there was a lot of baggage. And I realized that this was generational stuff, and it really takes some introspective work to fully understand that and then pay the attention to switch it. And so when I first started my first business was personal training. I had my own fitness business. I didn't even realize that a lot of the money stories I was holding on to was impacting my business. And similar to what you were saying about your acupuncture business, I worked from a place of I need to work hard. Oh my gosh, I need this client. If I don't sign this client, then how am I going to pay this bill? And so when I walked into a sales presentation and I offered my program and the price, the feeling that I got was like this sick, oh my gosh, what if they don't like me? It was just this really awful feeling. And when I presented the price and I got any objection, I would instantly lower it. Okay, well, what about this? And then they're like, well, and I would see the hesitation. I'm like, you know what? I'll give you an even better deal. How about this? Angela, and I would lower my price until they said yes. It left me working really, really hard for my barely making any money. Yet I was spending the time that I had to work on clients that were not willing to invest the energy, right? Yeah. And so they weren't getting the results. And then I started feeling bad about them not getting the results. And so then I thought that I wasn't good enough and I wasn't worthy to charge more money because my clients weren't getting results. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm a failure. I can't do this. That's how I started my sales. So anyone listening to this, take notes. Don't do that.
Again, I have chills. I'm like, okay, what? Like you said so many things that I want to dissect. So first of all, thank you so much for just sharing that very vulnerable piece of your background. And I feel like many warriors will be able to relate to that in some degree. I feel like so many people, so many humans have this story, right, that shapes who we are and why we do the things that we do. And one of the things about entrepreneurship and sales, right, and you just told it so beautifully, is that who we are on the inside is going to show up in how we sell and how we attract clients. And I can relate so much to what you were saying about, okay, if you don't want this at this price, I'll just keeping low to lower the price until they say yes. And then who do you end up attracting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The people that cancel, the people that are not committed, the people that maybe quit, like, or don't show up for that. I know for personal trainers, right? You start often at 5, 6 in the morning and they cancel, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes, exactly. And, the people that want refunds, the ones that are so quick to leave like a bad review about you, or that's how I started. And then somewhere along the line, I remember, what made the switch for me? I had one lady come in and she basically told me the program she wanted. She's like, and I'm going to come this many days a week and I'm going to shower here and I'm going to bring all my stuff and you're going to do this and you're going to do this and you're going to do this. And I remember like thinking like, who the hell do you think you are? This is my program. But I was so timid and afraid to say that to her. So I let that go. I was like, let's come back tomorrow and we'll decide on a program that works for you. And I was sitting there like writing out the program that she was describing. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this no matter how bad I need the money, right? And so the next day, before she even came back in, I called her and told her, listen, I don't think this is going to be a good fit for you. I'm not your ideal coach. You're not my ideal client. Here's a couple other people that might be better for you. Good luck. And I remember like shaking in my bones having that conversation with her. But after I hung up the phone, I was like, yes, like I felt like a freaking boss, right? And it didn't even matter about the loss of money because I gained my own value and I gained higher alignment. And I knew that I was meant to work with specific people. So that was like, I remember the first time turning a client down. So.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And I feel like so many people will be able to relate to that when you actually say no to somebody because it is not in your set of values to work with them, right? Here she was, like you said, she was coming in saying what she wanted. And you're like, no, see you later. Goodbye. Here's a referral. Good luck.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious to know, like, from that point on, how did your business change from that point when you said no to that client? How did your business change after that? Like, did you notice, were you struggling for money, or did your business grow? What did you experience after that alignment?
Yeah. I ended up raising my prices and
Love it.
I was super afraid, but I realized that if I continued operating at the level I was of lowering my prices, I was going to stay stuck working with this lower end clientele. And I started resenting them. I started resenting my business. And I knew that that was not how I could show up and serve, right? You can't have both. You can't be in resentment and service at the same time. And so I had to really get serious with myself and ask myself, what do I need? Like, what do I want? What will help me serve better? And that meant raising my prices. And when I did that, Angela, I attracted the most beautiful clients that we're still friends today. Like, we still talk on a weekly basis, and they were committed. They signed on like for a year contract, no questions asked, just dropped a few $1,000s. It wasn't a cheap program. It was just like, yep, here you go. And I remember the first time my client paid in full, and it was like a $5,000 program. And I was like, she's like, okay, here's my card. I was like, wow, okay, no problem. And that was amazing. That was all within my fitness business, and so I learned a lot then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love what you said. And I just want a little side note. I remember when I worked with my first business coach 3 years ago, and she said, Angela, when you sign on the right client or when you charge your fees, it should feel effortless, right? There's no struggle. When you're in alignment, there's no struggle. And it's not to take away from the fact that, yeah, you know, you need to put in the work, the inner work, right? But this notion of having to struggle and overwork and tax your system, right, to the point of exhaustion or adrenal fatigue or whatever, like that's a sign. And that's one thing I talk about on this podcast a lot is how do you know you're out of alignment? And that's one way is if you're like getting physically ill or you're attracting these people that like it just feels icky to work with them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I love how you touched upon this issue of things feeling effortless, attracting higher end clients with ease, right? Because you're in alignment and you are in service to help them. So that's a beautiful story.
So I love that you said that because that was me. Before I had the guts to raise my price, I was so overworked. I was constantly walking around in a brain fog. I had experienced overwhelm, anxiety, and I was losing weight like crazy. So I was a holistic fitness coach. Okay. This was my job, was to tell people how to be healthy. And I was living, walking every textbook, everything that you should do to be healthy. Okay. Yet I was feeling depleted. I had brain fog. I had racing thoughts. My hair was falling out. I was losing weight. Like I was super skinny and I couldn't figure out why. And I would have moments where my heart was just racing and my breath was super short. And I'm like, okay, Justina, just calm down, just calm down, just calm down. But thinking about everything that I had to do in my business and my clients, it just was so much for me. And I ended up going to the doctor to get blood work done because it was that bad. And everything came back within normal ranges. Like my thyroid was very close to being hyperactive, but not enough for prescription. And which honestly, prescriptions are not my jam. So what I described to my doctor, she sent me home with an anti-anxiety prescription. And I remember leaving the office like, for real? That's what you're telling me to sleep more and take this medication? And that was kind of like my first experience being sick or needing a doctor, if you will, outside of having my baby. And so that led me on a whole new research of what is my body missing? Like there has to be something more. I'm doing everything the fitness industry is telling me to do, and yet there's still something missing. And so that's how I discovered the gut brain axis and how mental wellness, mental health actually starts in your gut, and it's a whole body situation. It's not just in your head. Angela, and that right there transformed the way I started showing up for myself. I discovered the company I'm partnered with now. They're the only mental health company that offers this system. And within 2 weeks of using this holistic protocol, I woke up so clear headed. Like I remember the day, I remember looking out the window and I'm like, oh my God, the sky is blue. My fiance is like, yeah, it's always been blue. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like there was a cloud lifted, you know?
Yeah.
So I wasn't that aware of myself. I wasn't that tapped into like, what is alignment? What's not alignment at that point? I was living really 3D at that moment in my life. So, and I know a lot of people are living in that 3D world where they're not tapped in really to their energy as much. So when you start experiencing physical symptoms in your body, it's your inner self trying to tell you there's something wrong, right? You're out of alignment.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Bingo. Ding, 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 ding.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that and I'm a healthcare practitioner. I learned when I started working with the mind-body connection, I was aware of that, but to actually realize, hey, like I used to get really bad, this might be TMI, I used to get really bad menstrual cramps, like horrid, like often I miss school, work because of menstrual cramps. And I realized that by starting to work with people who were helping, and I was doing all the things, like there was a period of time where I had an acupuncture appointment, chiropractic, craniosacral, like I knew a lot of practitioners, so we just helped each other, right? I had like 8 appointments a week sometimes. It was crazy. And I was still having, like, I can relate. Like, I think that's why we're very similar, right? So between the mental health and the physical, I realized, oh, these menstrual cramps, they're optional. They're optional. And once I started to really do the inner work, sometimes they went away, but sometimes they were maybe 90% better. But for the most part, they were gone. And I was like, oh, just by like changing, who I'm being on the inside and my thought process. And I feel like we could just talk about this for hours and hours. I mean, it's just the power of the mind, I think, is where we're getting at, right? I remember hearing that we have no idea what we're capable of, that we're only using like 3% of our brain. Like, have you ever heard that statistic? And I never really understood what that meant until really delving into this work, like of the mind-body connection, brain habits.
Yeah.
We're so powerful, Justina.
So powerful. Oh, I love it. I just got chills as you're talking about this, because recently, as you were saying earlier, I've come to know this a little bit more. And like it almost makes me emotional, because how much I was committed to the struggle. And then now, like, how freeing it is. And life is just happening for me. I'm trusting myself and I'm stepping up, and I know that I am of service. And it doesn't matter what anyone says. It doesn't matter if people tell me, no, none of that even matters anymore. And it's no longer this feeling of I need to close clients. I need to do this. It's more of, how can I help? How can I give back? And this is exactly what I bring into my program for my online entrepreneurs and network marketers. It's about the energy. It's about the energy that you bring into your program, into your offer, into the marketing, that how you show up, because that's the alignment. When you could feel 100% authentic with your message, it doesn't matter who's watching. Like, the judgment goes out the window, the perfectionism goes out the window, the overthinking goes out the window. It doesn't matter. And if I have any overthinkers listening right now, I was the queen of overthinking, right, Angela? Like, it was so bad. It was so bad just a couple months ago. And like you said, it's a brain habit that you have to be able to be like, stop it, and bring awareness and stop it. And your thought process is a habit. Yeah, so many beautiful things now.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you brought up habits too, and commitment, because really we don't consider, I didn't grow up even understanding truly what a habit was. Like, I looked at habits as, I'm eating too much sugar, or, maybe I should stop drinking coffee. But I mean, it goes as deep as into our brain from when we were, I don't know how long it goes back, probably when we are in utero, when we're learning things from absorbing information, right, from our mom and our, her world. And that doesn't really, and I think it's age 7 where all that programming is done. So I think that's why children, and you have 2 little ones, right, 10 months and 3, like they're so in it. We call them innocent. I think it's because they're still so pure, right? And I had Padma on a few days ago, Padma Ali, and we were talking about this too, how kids are just, we're drawn to them because of their innocence and purity. And it's, I think, partly because they haven't been completely programmed yet, right? They're so I don't want to say moldable, like in a negative way, but they're just like sponges, right? They have this curiosity and they just take on information.
Yeah.
And, and that, as you probably already know, that shifts as we go into adulthood, and we carry those stories, whether conscious, most of the time it's not even conscious. And that directs our behavior, that directs our habits, that directs how we feel about ourselves. So thank you so much for sharing just that part about, your journey and going from not believing in yourself to believing in yourself. And I think you're a living proof that warriors, it doesn't have to take that long.
Yeah.
Right? We as humans overcomplicate things, and we think, oh, in order to do this, it's going to take years and years. But it doesn't. Once that switch goes off, transformation happens really, really quickly, and it's a choice, right? You mentioned choosing the struggle. So, are we going to choose the struggle and the hard and the complicated to choosing easy?
Yeah. I want to touch on that for a second, because it was an area that I got it, but it didn't make sense. And so for any of the warriors listening, I didn't think I had self-worth issues. Okay. I was like, I'm cool. I'm great. Whatever. Like, I'm a hustler. I'm a hard worker. I get shit done. And I was so prideful. Like, I come from a Latina background. I told you my mom was a hustler to take care of her family. And she was very prideful about that. Right. Which, yes, I'm so grateful for my mom for taking care of us. Working hard and long hours and struggling should not mean that you are a badass. Okay. And for so long, I was like, I'm a badass because I'm doing all of these things. And I'm like, yeah, look at me. And people would call me that. They celebrated the fact that I worked hard and I worked long and I got shit done and I was a hustler. And I was like, yeah. You guys, that's being committed to the struggle. That came from low self-worth. I did not value myself. So I felt the need to overwork and keep myself so busy and keep achieving and working hard, because the only thing that made me feel valuable was the fact that I could achieve something. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I fully stepped into I'm valuable because I'm me, because I was born, right? That's the shift. And it's the habit brain that's going to keep you feeling like you need to add more and more and more to your plate. And it's that conscious awareness of no, I'm going to just focus on a couple things because I don't need to prove myself to anybody. So that was a really huge wake up call for me, that I didn't even realize I was struggling with those things, right? And I had low self-worth. So if anyone feels like you're constantly busy and overworking and trying to do more, check in with yourself. Like, can you truly say, do I love myself? Do I value myself? And it's easy. Look at your exterior world. How are your relationships? Is your business thriving or not? Because that's all a reflection of you.
Yeah. I feel like self-worth is, you're so right. Like, I don't think I fully understood what self-worth was until about 6 months ago, like really understood what it means. Like, oh, isn't that like self-confidence or self-esteem? No, it's very different. And what I heard from you just now, just talking about how you did all the things and you were this badass and hustled, right? What I'm hearing is that you did that because you get approval, right? You get external validation from others. Like, look at Justina, she's doing all those things. Justina, I don't know how you get it all done, but you're amazing. And I feel like, that's a very common story, especially among women.
Yeah.
Right? Because we get that recognition from other people. Like, oh my God, look at Justina doing all the things, right? Mm-hmm. And that just fuels the fire and continues the cycle. And where does that leave you? Where did that leave you?
Yeah, that's what left me out of alignment, having the anxiety, and my health was in the hole. Mm-hmm. My business was in the hole. I was broke. I was working with PITA clients.
I love it. PITAs.
Yeah, those PITAs, man, they'll keep you stuck. And yeah.
So true. I love that you shared that, and I love that you brought up the subject of self-worth, because that's paramount. It's like a foundational concept that I talk about in the Empowered Warrior, because so many of us don't realize what it means to have high self-worth. So I would love to know, you mentioned self-love. So how did you specifically turn that around? Like, what were some of the things that you did to change your self-worth?
This is such a good question, because it's multifactorial, right? It's not like I just did this one thing and that changed my life. I needed to be aware of it. I think the awareness is massive, and the thoughts I was having. Okay. And I'm sure Angela's talked about this on this podcast, is you think yourself into reality, right? And I had to get real with that and really be like, okay, if I am the creator, if I'm as powerful as everyone is saying that we all are powerful, then I need to start bringing some awareness to that and own that. And started with paying attention to my thinking. I've always been very dedicated to my health. So working out, eating clean, paying attention to what foods made me feel good, which ones made me feel bad, and making the decisions on if I wanted to eat those foods. Like, for instance, dairy and me are not friends, okay? But sometimes a girl loves some pizza. And it was a conscious decision of, you know what? I know I'm not going to feel the best, but I'm going to enjoy a slice of pizza, and not shaming myself about it. Just knowing that this is not how I normally eat. So it was my thoughts, it was my healthy habits. Hypnosis was a game changer, where you could quiet the analytical overthinking mind and be able to access the 95% of your brain that no one knows how to access, right?
Yes.
And just visualizing, what would it feel like to be loved? And I remember I was working with another hypnotherapist who we both know, and she asked me this question that no one's ever asked me before in my life, and it instantly brought me to tears. And that's when I knew that this was a problem. She said, Justina, do you believe you're lovable? And I choked. I couldn't even answer it. And I was like, what? Like, how? That was really eye-opening for me. And then I looked at my babies and I was like, oh my God, what if they felt that way? What if they felt like they were not lovable? I couldn't even imagine the pain. Like, no way. And so I looked at them and I knew that I needed to love myself for them, to show them, to represent. This is what self-love is. I was so determined to break the cycle in my family, and it came from loving ourselves. And I don't know if I even answered your question, but those are some of the things that I did. And it's a constant everyday practice. It's not something that's just a light bulb switch on. It's the onions of the layers of the onion.
Again, it's habits, right? It's being committed and consistent to these new habits, and doing like, we have a mentor, right, who says doing the everyday boring things really well every single day, even if it's not glamorous, even if it's not pretty. It may not be Instagram worthy, though it should be, right? It may not involve a beautiful picture, but it's doing those everyday things. And I'm so glad you brought up hypnosis. For warriors who are wondering about hypnosis, it is actually a practice that's approved or supported by several medical outlets. American, I can't remember who they all are, but I was under the impression for so long that it was this like crazy woo-woo thing. But it's just this, like you mentioned, it's getting through that layer. It's getting to the subconscious mind and getting past the barrier of the analytical mind. That part of us that's the ego, right? That part of us that says, no, I can't do that. That voice inside our head that's always like, I tend to work with people, especially when I had my acupuncture practice, my anxiety patients, like, I just can't turn that voice off. I wake up in the middle of the night and the voice just goes. So it's getting past that and talking directly to the subconscious mind and asking, can you please change? Can you please form a new neural pathway so that I don't repeat these same habits over and over again? And that requires, just like anything is a habit, right? Choosing to sleep late, warriors, is a habit. Choosing to get up early is a habit. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah. And one of the things for me, integrity is huge, right? And I realize even still today, if I'm out of integrity, then everything kind of just slowly starts to slide down in my life.
Yeah.
And it even goes to the thought of tomorrow I'm going to wake up early. And then my alarm goes off and I hit snooze. And it's those are the little things that are not pretty. But if you do those things very well, what Angela just said, that's the work, right? Staying true to yourself is the most important relationship to have.
Oh, yes. Chills again, right? Because people, even people who don't claim to be spiritual or whatever that means, like I define spirituality as the relationship you have with your higher self, right? It doesn't necessarily mean, you're burning sage and doing oracle cards, right? But it's just the relationship that you have with your higher self. And when you emit a vibe, whether you know it or not, there's people, right? And it kind of Zoom got a little funny. I think it's my internet connection, warriors. I'm really sorry. But what I think I heard you saying is that people, they see somebody and they're just not sure about them and they don't know why, right? Like, I don't know how I feel about this person because it's their vibe, right? It's the energy that every single one of us as humans, we put out this energy. We're cosmic beings. And because I know I have some woo people and I have some 3D analytical people on here. So I like to touch upon both. And people know, they know your energy. They may not know it consciously, but they know it subconsciously, what you're putting out, how you feel about yourself. So those people out there who are like, oh, I don't know why, like I suck, right? Those people. And I've been one of those people before too. If you're self-loathing, if you don't love yourself, if you don't celebrate yourself, that's going to reflect in the world. People are going to pick up on that. So maybe you may feel like the victim or that you don't get the opportunities that you want. We could go into this a lot, but part of it could be because of your vibe, right? Because of your thoughts, right? And our mentor said the other day, like, every single thought that you have goes out into the universe, whether it's positive or negative. So watch your thoughts. Watch every single thought that you have.
So good.
It's good
So
stuff.
true.
Yeah.
It's 100% true. And when you fully take responsibility for your thinking is when you could transform your life. Yeah, I mean, you can't play victim and you can't expect good things to happen to you if you're assuming the worst.
Right, because
right?
what happens, right?
You get what you assume, right? You get what you think. You get what you prepare for is there's so many different ways to say it.
Yeah.
And when you fully embody that, then that's when you know you're powerful AF. Like that's the magic.
Mm-hmm.
It's you, and you have the opportunity to change it like that. And I loved what you said is it doesn't need to take a long time. Your subconscious mind works in energy wavelengths. Okay. So think of lightning, like it's huge amounts of energy, like crashing through the sky. It does not need to take 10 years, 15 years. It could happen in a matter of seconds if you allow it to.
Mm-hmm.
And most people are like, how? Give me the steps, Justina. Tell me the steps, Angela. Because that was me. I get it. For the analytical listeners, my habit brain wants to take me back there sometimes. And so I understand wanting the steps, wanting the how, wanting the perfection, wanting to know that you're doing it right, the external validation. And I feel kind of like one of our mentors, Coach Lisa. She's like, just let it be easy. And I'm like, how?
How do I do that? It's not easy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I love that, we get to talk about this because our world, our universe is evolving, right? And the energies are shifting. And you look around what's happening in the world today, and it's becoming more and more obvious that the awareness, the consciousness of the planet as a whole is shifting. And the one thing that I really like about what's happening right now is it's causing people to shut down and really sit with themselves and honor the feminine, the relaxation, doing less. Like, what does it look like if you didn't have to go to work 8 hours a day? right? Like, what if you had to stay home for 6 months? People were losing their mind because we were so stuck in the masculine and doing and doing and doing and doing that when the world shut down and we were forced to stay home, people didn't know how to respond to that. But
Yeah.
this is the evolution of the earth. And when you learn how to master both of those energies, and especially in your business, know when to push hard and when to achieve and when to do a launch, and know when to close your computer and cut your day off at 11 a.m. and give it no meaning because your body and mind need rest. That I don't know, like that is what helped me also in my business, was giving myself the space to take time off. But that came back to self-worth. Like I was worthy enough to have a day off or a half a day off and cancel my calls. Like, so what? The world's not going to close because I canceled a call, right?
Yeah. And what I'm hearing from you is just this concept of doing less, right? Being in the feminine, like you mentioned. And I talk about the yin and the yang, the masculine and feminine energies. We need a balance of both. And we live in a society that values the masculine. And I talk about this a lot. I have an amazing story, actually. I don't know if I've shared it with you. I'm going to just share it because I'm feeling called to share it. Did I tell you about my story about Election Day 2016?
No.
Okay, so this is wild. I met with my shaman for the first time on November 9th, I believe, 2016, the day after our last election. And I was feeling dejected. I was like, just like probably not every, but many women, I was just feeling like, oh my God, like where is the world going, right? And my shaman was just like, I've never been happier. And I was like, what? She's like, this is the transformation we need. And is this person who is going to do it for us. He's here for a reason. And I was like, okay. And that has brought me a sense of peace and totally detaching from whatever's happening in the outside world and just giving me permission to do the inner work, to allow and be in the feminine. And as a result, no stress in 2020. I mean, yes, I'm a human being, so there's stress, there's anxiety, there's things that come up, but I've been at peace and I've been able to, serve from this energy as opposed to that frantic, worried, scared, anxious, scarcity-minded energy that we talked about in the beginning. So,
Yeah, that's so cool. I love it. And the more that you think about it, you realize that if you could bring this detachment into your business, the more peace you'll have, right?
mm-hmm.
And when you're at peace is when abundance starts to flow. And it took me a while to get that, but now money is flowing into my life like crazy. I'm getting money from on PayPal, on Venmo. I have clients reaching out asking, do you have a coaching program? And I didn't even have a coaching program yet. And I was like, yep, sure do. Thank you, universe. And I'm not questioning it. I'm allowing things to unfold. And this is the beauty. When you could honor who you really are and the gifts that you're supposed to have. And this is what I love to help entrepreneurs really come up with, is like your gifts. And then how do you put that out to the rest of the world so you could attract the people you're meant to serve, And when you could fully step into alignment like that is when abundance starts to flow and everything shifts in your life and you move up to a different frequency and a higher vibration. And you're able to serve more people at that level without depleting yourself. And that's how together we all evolve and create global impact is when we could just fully embody who we're meant to be. And I don't know if we'll ever actually get there. I'm a firm believer that it's like this constant evolution, but not needing to know every detail before you step into it. That was the thing that I had to let go, is the how. How am I going to do this? And what am I going to say? How am I going to help people? Yeah. And it was crazy. Like as I started just like surrendering, that, like I said, people started coming to me, and you were people that I helped with, like the marketing and the words and the things. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is pretty fun. Like
Yeah.
So thank you, Angela, for that, because you are a big part of this journey for me.
And so, of course, and for those listening, and I'm aware of the time too. For those listening, Justina, if you have a business, right, and you help primarily people in network marketing, or is it any entrepreneur, just kind of concretize their messaging and sales process, correct?
Yes. So I primarily work with network marketers and online coaches.
Okay, perfect. I mean, Justina, you helped me tremendously with we scheduled a phone call, and I walked away from that. And this is after studying this stuff for 10 months. You just made it so easy to understand, so clear. I was like, okay, I know exactly what to do now. So
Yeah. Cool.
you're gifted, my friend. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being on the show today.
Yes. Thank you, Angela. And if anybody is curious about the process I walked Angela through, so what we did was helped clarify her marketing strategy so it felt in alignment with her and the people she's meant to serve. And we figured out a strategic plan to put it out on social media using organic growth, using specific posting formulas. So you could just post with confidence and ease and trust, right? And bringing that energy into your marketing. So that's one of the things that is part of my mentally fit leadership method program, is where I help entrepreneurs really dive into their marketing message. And then we go deep into this mental work, as you guys probably already experienced, that the energy, the mentality behind all of it is powerful. And then we move into the sales training and how to just bring in this energy of service into the sale so you could feel confident and comfortable and of service to actually help anybody that you get to cross paths with. And that is how you open up gates of abundance. So yeah, if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm sure that Angela's going to have my social, my Facebook, my Instagram, all in the show notes. I have a lovely Facebook community called the Mentally Fit Leader, where I talk about all of this stuff. I give you a lot of the tips and tricks that I use in my coaching business and for myself in there. And I really just want to see everybody grow. It's not a matter of you committing to work with me or to join my team. It's more of how can you find alignment within yourself and just go out and serve the world.
Thank you, Justina. I
Yes,
really appreciate having you, and thank you for just sharing more about what you do and your story. And it was just a really lovely conversation. And I just want to make sure, for those of you that are listening, maybe driving, or don't have a chance to check the show notes, the name of your Facebook group is the Authentically Aligned Leader.
No, it's actually the Mentally Fit Leader.
I'm so sorry. The Mentally Fit Leader.
Yes.
And then your Instagram handle is
Justina _ mental fitness leader.
Okay, perfect. And thank you so much. I just have one last question that I'd like to ask everybody before we wrap up. And I'd love to know, what does impact mean to you?
Yes. Wow. Impact to me means, again, fully trusting yourself and honoring your special gifts to go out and serve the world so you could change more lives. Impact is helping other people develop their gifts so that they could go out and serve the world and changing our kids' generation. So stepping into alignment with yourself and recognizing the old patterns and behaviors that have kept you and the previous generations stuck, and knowing and trusting that you have gifts to change the future generations and the way that we currently do things today to improve the masses. It's not just about you. It's not just about your family. It's about improving and raising the awareness of everyone else around you because you fully are in alignment with yourself. Yeah.
I love that. And I love how you mentioned the generational piece too. You talked about that earlier, and I wanted to acknowledge that we are responsible, right, for the generations in front of us. So by changing ourselves, we're not only helping ourselves, helping our families, but helping generations after us and the world. So thank you so much, Justina. It was really a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you,
And
Angela.
Yeah, thank you. And so everything about Justina will be in the show notes, warriors, and just have a look on Instagram and look for her on Facebook. And thank you so much, Justina. It was a pleasure.
I loved being here. Thank you for your listeners for spending this time with us. And I'll talk to you soon, Angela.
Okay, sounds good, Justina. Take care. Take care, warriors. Thank you so much for listening to the Empowered Warrior podcast. It is an honor and a privilege to have you as a listener. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast and would like to help others pave their pathway to freedom, end their disempowerment and suffering, and become an empowered warrior, please share this podcast with your friends and family. Also, it is my intention to help humanity grow and evolve to their highest potential. So if you really enjoy what you're hearing, please help me spread the word by leaving a review in iTunes. Thank you again, and I am so grateful to be able to serve you in this very exciting way.